Now let's talk about tactics. Tactics are the elements of combinations. Combinations are a sequence of forcing moves. Like check, you have to move your king. Another check, you have to move your king. Another check, those are forcing. So when it comes one after the other, it's a sequence. So tactics are what makes combinations possible. And we're going to look at the basic ones. Now, the basic tactic starts with the pin. The pin is one of the most, basic tactic that every chess player has to know. So what's a pin? A pin basically indicates that you have two of your pieces lined up on a straight line. In this position, we have two black pieces lined up on this line and two black pieces lined up on this line. The king and the bishop, king and the rook. So when you have two pieces lined up, it only tells you that a pin is possible. By a pin, we want to attack the smaller piece, which is in front. This is the smaller piece. In a pin, the smaller piece usually is the one in front. So when we attack the smaller piece in a position like this is the king. So the king obviously is the bigger piece. This is the rook, which is the smaller piece. They're on a straight line. So now if I go attack the smaller piece on that line, the smaller piece cannot move because then it's going to be putting his king in check, which is not allowed. You're not allowed to put your king in check. And it's like the smaller piece already shielding the king from attack, so you cannot move. So we say we're pinning the rook to the king. The rook is pinned now, and as such, because the king is behind it, it's unable to move. Now, there are two kinds of pins. Now, because the king is on it, the king is the piece behind the rook, you're not allowed to put your own king in check, so the rook is not allowed to move. So this is an absolute pin in the sense that the rook is absolutely unable to move. Now, in this position, we have another pin, which is the knight and the queen being on this diagonal, and we have a bishop on that diagonal. Now, the knight can move, but if the knight moves, the bishop is going to take the queen. So this is not an absolute pin because the knight is actually allowed to move. The knight can move. You're allowed to give away a queen, but you're just going to lose 9 points for free. But if this was the king, then the knight would not, the knight cannot move. But because it's the queen, the knight in this position is allowed to move. But the queen will get captured. So this is a relative pin. Now we have other pins. Now in this position, we have a knight and a king on this line. So it tells us, wait, two pieces on a straight line. I can make a pin. We have a rook. So if the rook travels all the way down, now we can see there's a pin. And this knight cannot move. If the king moves away now, it's too late because you're going to get the knight on the next move. And the rook is unable to defend the knight because we have a bishop in and out all the squares, which is can use. Now, the pin sometimes doesn't in itself do much. And that is where the element of pressure comes in. In this position, for example, let's assume the knight goes here to attack the rook. And the rook now finds out that, wait, the king and the knight are now on the straight line. All I need to do is just make a pin. Now, when I make this pin, now I'm threatening to capture the knight on the next move. But black can make a move like this. When this happens, we know pawn's captured to the side. So the knight is guarded. If the rook tries to take the knight now, the pawn is going to take back, which doesn't really make sense because the rook is actually 5 points and the knight is 3 points. Capturing this actually makes us lose because we're actually giving up more for less. So in such a case, the pin in itself is not doing much because we can't capture the knight. This is where the element of pressure comes in. Because we have a pin, we can attack the pin piece by putting pressure. We can use any other piece, but normally it's best to use your smallest piece because if you want to give away something, you would want to give away the list of, what you have. Instead of giving up more for less, you want to give up less for more. So giving up a pawn for a knight makes a whole lot of sense than giving up a rook. So we attack the knight with a pawn, and because the knight is pinned, now we're going to capture the knight because even if the king moves away, now it's too late. We're going to get a knight because we made a pin and we were able to apply some pressure on the pin piece for us to get a free knight. So now that we have an idea of what the pin is, basically two pieces lined up on a straight line, the smaller piece being in front, the bigger piece being behind, and we attack the smaller piece and it cannot move because the bigger piece behind will be under attack. If it's the king, then it's absolute because it cannot move because you're not allowed to put your king in check. But if it's any other piece, then you can move, but you only end up losing the piece behind. Now, I want to show you a couple of stuff. These examples indicates that the pin can be used for so many things. You can just make an easy pin like this. This is just a straightforward pin. You're making a pin, and no matter what black does, it's gonna lose a zook. This is just straightforward. You make a pin to prevent the piece from moving, and then it tries to save it or it moves away, we capture it. Those are straightforward pins. But we can actually use pins to achieve different goals. And now this is an example. In this position, see, we have the queen aiming at the black queen, right? But the queen is also on the same diagonal as the black king. So if we just capture this, it's just going to take back. That's just a fair trade, and we don't have anything to show for the trade. But we can actually make a pin. If we put the bishop here, we can make a pin. But the problem is, the queen is just going to take us. The queen is just going to capture us. When the queen captures us, we can actually go all the way down and attack the king and get checkmate. Because the king will not have anywhere to go when we cover these two squares and this one. So in this position, for example, if I make a move like this, now I'm making a pin. Black can decide to capture, but now if he captures, then I'll give checkmate. I win the game. And you can actually try to stop the pin with the bishop, but then I'm going to take the bishop still maintaining the pin. And when he captures back, I'm still going to give checkmate. So in this position now, we can see that the pin, we didn't use the pin. We didn't just make the pin because we wanted the piece not to move. We wanted to use the pin to get checkmate. So the pins can be used for different stuff. So as we go on, we're going to see like different examples of pins being used. Now, this is a different position. In this position now, we don't really have a straightforward pin because the bishop is aiming at, yes, this is a pin because this bishop is aiming at this bishop, but the king is behind it. Now, if we can just capture. If we just capture, the rook captures back. We're not getting anything out of it. We capture, captures back. We're not getting anything out of it. But we can use our knowledge of pins to get something out of this by capturing with the rook. Now, when we capture with the rook, black is forced to capture back with his rook or give us a bishop. Now, if he captures back with the rook, now we forced a pin. Now that we forced a pin, the rook and the king on the same diagonal, we can actually now put pressure because we know the rook is absolutely pinned because the piece behind it is the king. And when he takes, we take, the rook cannot move. If the king moves away, we just get a free rook because we're able to use a pin and use the knowledge of pressure to win a piece. Now, the same position, the same thing can be found in this position. We have the king and the queen lined up on a straight line. So that tells us a pin is possible. We also have the knight and the queen on the diagonal. So that tells us this is a pin. This is obviously a pin because the knight can, if the knight tries to move, we're gonna get the pin. So because we know we have this, and this is also possible, we know we have pins. Now, but white has some other things going on. White has a queen and a rook aiming at the king here, the pawn here, which is, next to the king. But the queen is one guarding it. The queen and the king, they're the two defenders, guarding the pawn. The queen and the rook are the two attackers aiming at this pawn. But because we have two defenders, the queen cannot take because the pawn is well defended. But because we know we have a pin, this is a pin and this is a possible pin, we can actually make this pin. Because now when we make this pin, black has a couple of options. Black can take with the knight, but he loses his queen. Black can also take with the queen. But then we're gonna go check. King has to move. And then checkmate. The knight cannot take because the knight is pinned. So this is how we use the knowledge of pins to achieve different goals, especially checkmate when we play. One more example and we're good. Now, this is the final example for the pins, and then we go to the skewer. In this position, the queen is aiming at the queen. Okay. If I take this, it takes back. I'm not gonna get anything out of it. Okay, maybe I'm gonna give him, this pawn is gonna take, and then that's gonna give him some kind of problems because then the pawn becomes a problem. But right now, it's not too much. But I have something I can do. I see I have a bishop aiming at the pawn next to the king. And because I have this, ideas begin to come to my mind, and I'm looking at, wait, if I can make this king go to this point, then this pawn is going to be pinned to this bishop. So based on that, I have a rook here. I can actually play rook here, check, giving away my rook. And the point being, when the king takes, now this pawn is pinned to the king. So when I go here with a check, the pawn cannot take because the pawn is pinned. The pawn has to move to the side. And I can give checkmate because the queen is backed by the bishop. So these are different ways you can use the pin. You can give straightforward pins, absolute relative. You can use it to achieve different goals. As we talk about different kinds of combinations and different kinds of elements of combinations, you would see that the pins are very, very powerful, effective when it comes to trying to win the game using the forcing sequence. So now let's talk about the skewer. Skewers are just like pins. The only difference is the bigger piece is now in front. When we looked at pins, if this was the case, this would have been a pin. The queen would have been the smaller piece, the king being the bigger piece, and the rook pinning the smaller piece, which is the queen, to the bigger piece. But in this case, we have a king in front and the queen all the way behind it. When the king moves away, now the rook gets the queen behind the king. So in a skewer, the bigger piece just in front and the smaller piece is behind. And a pin, the smaller piece is in front and the bigger piece is behind. Now another example. In this position, the king is the bigger piece. The rook is the smaller piece. The king is a bigger piece. The rook is a smaller piece. The king is a bigger piece. The bishop is a smaller piece. This is a straight line. This is a diagonal. And this is another diagonal. See, as long as you have two pieces on a straight line or on a diagonal, a pin or skewer is possible. The big pieces in front, it's a skewer. The small pieces in front is a pin. So now if I come here now, this is a skewer. The king has to give way, and then I can take this. But if I can also go here with a check, remember the pawn is guarding the rook. King has to give way. Then I can take the bishop. I can also play this one. Can't come here to block it, protect, because my bishop is aiming at it. So it's probably going to move away. Then I'm going to get the bishop behind it. So these are examples of skewers. More examples. Easy. Check. King in front, rook behind it, bigger piece, smaller piece. We attack them on the straight line. King has to move. We'll get the bishop. We'll get the rook behind it. Now, here's another kind of skewer. We have two rooks. This is called a battery. Where when we have two rooks lined up on a straight line, this is called a battery. Now, when this rook goes all the way down here, c7, to attack the queen, because it's backed up by the other rook, the queen cannot capture, because the queen is going to get captured by the other rook. And we know this is 5 and this is 9. So the queen has to give way. But no matter what she does, the bishop is behind her. So if the queen moves this way now the bishop is going to get captured because the queen here is the bigger piece. The bishop is the smaller piece. Bigger piece moves out of the way. You get a smaller piece behind it, and that is the skewer. Now, to the key part. The skewer in itself might not actually give something in some cases. So you might have to use the skewer to achieve bigger objectives, bigger goals. And this is an example. I can't give a skewer in this position because the bishop is just going to capture me. But if I calculate, I can see that this king cannot go to these two squares because this pawn stops him from moving that. He cannot also go to this one because I have my queen aiming at this diagonal. I have a bishop here. If my bishop goes here to attack it, then these two squares will also be taken away from me. So if my bishop goes here, the king is going to be forced to go to this one or this one, these two squares. So because I know that, and I know my queen is attacking the queen, but the queen is guarded, and if this king can give way, then I'm going to get a free queen. So if I start off by attacking the king from this point, he has to go to the square, because if he moves backwards, which is the only other possible option, I'm going to get a free queen. But wait, if I attack him and he goes this way, the bishop is going to be covering the squares. This bishop is already covering this one. Now, if I go here to attack him again, now he has to go this way now. Okay, so if I go this way and I'm attacking him, these two squares are under attack by my queen. So, and because my queen is aiming at his queen, he has to go to this square. If I go this way now, he has to go, he has these two options, 1 and 2, 1 and 2. So if I go this, he has to go this way. That's the only way to protect the queen. But now, because I see this, I'm not going to take that. I'm going to play this move, which is a skewer, a check. The king cannot go here because of my bishop. He's forced to either go here, here, or here. But no matter what he does, I'm getting a queen out afterwards. So you see here, if you go back here, I used the knowledge of the skewer to get my queen, but not directly. I had to go a little bit further by saying, wait, if I give him this, he has to go, and then I can use the skewer to actually get the queen. So those are some of the things you use the skewer for. Now, this is another one. If I go here to make a skewer, the king is going to get out of the way, and I can get the queen if I want. But if I get the queen, I'm not going to get anything out of it. It's just a fair trade. I'm giving up 9 for 9. But because I know I have a skewer here, I know I can always get a skewer here. I know anytime I go here, I'm going to make a skewer. And I know about pins. I have a look on the open file. Right here, I have a look on the D file. If my rook goes all the way down to capture this pawn, this is a pin. And the queen cannot move. The queen, if the queen captures, fine, but the queen cannot move. Even if the king moves away, then I'm going to take it. So if I go this way, making a pin, threatening to capture the queen is forced to capture because I'm going to take it on the next one if she doesn't. Now that the queen is forced to capture, this is a pin. This is my knowledge of, this is how I use the knowledge of pin. Now I'm using my pin. The pin itself, I'm not using it to get anything, right? I'm giving away my rook, but I'm using my knowledge of skewers to get a free queen or a queen for a rook. So those are the ways you use pins and skewers to achieve different goals while playing. You can use them, just attack a piece, a bigger piece, it gets out of the way, you get a smaller piece behind them, or you can just calculate a little bit, deeper to see if you can get, something more with your knowledge of pins and skewers. So now we're going to look at forks and discover attacks to round up the basic elements of combination.